Welcome to Upleveling, the podcast dedicated to building better leaders, smarter systems, and bigger results. Welcome back to another podcast episode. Let's just be honest here that it is not very easy talking to yourself or talking to a camera by yourself for, 10, 20 minutes. So I'm really easing into this and going to try and really embrace the journey of podcasting. So thanks for joining us again for another episode. Today, we're going to talk about what to do when it feels like everything is falling apart. Because in business, things do not always go as planned. We know this. And sometimes employees leave or clients leave, sales just aren't happening, or your cash flow is really tight. And it just feels really hard. The thing is, those are the moments that are going to teach you to be a better entrepreneur, and we have to go through those. One of the topics today, or actually our first topic, is talking about how growth isn't linear, that we expect to continue to grow and grow and grow, and sometimes growing means dialing back or pruning. So we're going to hop into that today and really try and help you navigate through some of these pain points and how you can react better and what you can put into place so that you're not overwhelmed by emotion and really freaking out. So let's hop into it. First section, I already mentioned, growth is not linear. We set these goals and we think that it's just a solid path up, and it's not. It is very much up and down, up and down. And that's just part of business. And when you can recognize that and accept that, you're going to bounce back better to different obstacles. Even the most successful businesses go through these seasons. So that was kind of part of me wanting to do this podcast, was the fact that there are really rough seasons and not everyone talks about them. And so I want to normalize that. I want you to know that we all have employees who leave. We all have clients who leave. We've all probably been through cash flow tightness and how to overcome that. And so just recognizing that when something happens and it's a setback, you need to figure out how's the best way to react to that instead of becoming overwhelmed. So I'll give you a prime example. Here at Align CPA, we recently had an employee who unexpectedly left. And there was a moment of freak out of what the hell do we do now? But then just sit back and came up with a new solid plan. And honestly, it got me very excited for that plan. I think that's the beauty of business, is that we get to make new plans and we get to try new things and to recognize not all things are going to work out. So that's okay. But you want to embrace that in knowing if it hasn't happened to you yet, it's going to. So we're going to step back and say, how do we react to this? But I want you to see it as really a natural cycle of growth. And then ask yourself, this is your actionable tip, because this has helped me so much, is saying, what is this phase preparing me for? That whatever you're going through or whatever you're trying to fix, this is going to prepare you for a new level. And so that is what you want. You can't up-level your business without having some setbacks or some failures, if that's how you define them. I don't like to define this as a failure, because really it's just a learning opportunity of saying okay, this happened. Now what can we put into place to overcome it? So just realize that there are ups and downs. That doesn't mean you're a bad business owner. It's just you're going to experience those. Next, I want to talk about, and this is so important, of saying, what's the difference in feelings versus facts? Because when things happen, you're usually reacting with your feelings. For instance, with an employee leaving, we take that really personal, and it starts to it hurts personally, and we feel that personally. But if we can reframe that and look at facts, we're learning how to be a better business owner, because you don't want your feeling of panic or feeling of alarm to take over, especially if you have a team, because your team is depending on you to be that strong person to lead the team. It is okay to freak out, but it's not okay to freak out in front of the team. So we're not going to do that. We want to make sure we're making better decisions off of facts and not feelings. And really, that's where you're going to see success, is when you can get to that level. And when you're feeling very overwhelmed, or you're feeling like the sky is falling, you're feeling like you're not going to overcome whatever this obstacle is, I want you to go back to the facts. So go back to your financials, go back to your sales, to your profit and loss, and look at those so that your brain can recognize the sky's not falling, like we are okay. And I want you to also think about, when's the last time you've been through a similar challenge, and what did you learn from that? Because if you can correlate your past experiences and how you got through them to this future or current experience, then that's going to tame down some of those feelings. And again, we're just looking at facts. We're looking at how have we overcame things in the past, and telling your brain, like, you are okay. You're going to get through this. We want to stop and calm down our feelings and refer to our facts. I was just talking to some friends about this last weekend while we were walking, and we were actually talking about investing in real estate, and she was just really timid on pulling the trigger on something. And really, she had all of the facts for why this was a good deal, how it was going to cash flow. She had the funds to make it happen. And she still was like really stuck in that. And so my comments to her were, look at what you've done in the past. What happened with the last piece of real estate you bought, and the piece before that, and the piece before that. You have a solid track of success. So you need to look back at that and recognize you do make good decisions. You do make decisions with facts and analytics. And so it is okay to make the next decision. And honestly, if you're not a little bit scared, you're probably not pushing it hard enough. So just kind of take that into perspective. But the next thing I really want to bring into the conversation is, you need to own it and take responsibility for whatever is happening in the business. Because let's say clients are leaving. And so freaking out's not going to help you. But you need to take responsibility for why they're leaving. Well, first you need to figure out why. Why are they leaving? Is work not getting done? Are you not communicating? Price is too high? What is it? Figure out why they're leaving and then fix it. But before you can do any of that, you have to take responsibility for what is going on. We're not going to play the blame game. We're not going to put that on other people. We're not going to put that on software. We're going to own that. Because even if this is not something that we did directly, it is our responsibility to improve it and make sure it doesn't happen again. So if employees are leaving, you're going to want to say, why is this happening? Did I hire the wrong person? Did I not onboard them well? Did they not fit with our culture? What is it that they're leaving? Sometimes you'll find that people are leaving for a really good reason. Maybe they shouldn't have been on the bus to begin with. Other times you'll find that you lost a really good team player, but there's something you could have done about it. So now we're going to recognize what that thing is and kind of step back and put that into place so it doesn't happen again. That's really the key to all of this. Is it's not about not making mistakes or not making bad decisions. It's about learning from them. And then also recognizing, one of the things I say around the office all the time is, we're either winning or we're learning. There's no failure here. Or I guess there is, but there's only failure when you are doing the same mistake over and over. That's when we're going to fail. But if we make a mistake and we learn from it and we do something different, that's when we're winning. So there's nothing wrong with that. In taking that responsibility, you want to ask yourself, what role did I play in this? And really be honest with yourself about that. This is why I love journaling, putting all of this on paper. What role did I play in this? How could this outcome have been different? And then how can I improve this so it doesn't happen again? The only way that we're going to improve these is if we're acknowledging and taking responsibility. The best analogy or I guess a really good analogy I like to give in business when things are kind of blowing up is the overflowing sink. Are we going to try and mop up the water that is coming from the overflowing sink? Or are we going to try and unclog it and fix the root problem? Now, I'll say there's sometimes where we just got to keep mopping up the water. Maybe it's really tight cash flow and there's not a lot of changes we can make. But at the same time, we have to focus on unclogging the sink so that this problem doesn't continue. And that is looking back on this situation when things are all blowing up of saying, how do we fix the problem? And really thinking about, is this a root problem or is this a symptom? You want to get into, like, let's say you're not making any sales. Okay, well, is this a marketing problem? Is this a pricing problem? We want to figure out what is the root cause of no sales. The same things with employees leaving. Is this a hiring problem? Is this a retention problem? Is this, a training problem? Like, did I not train these employees right? So what is the root cause? And then start to fix that. And that's where you're going to see traction in your business. That's really where you're going to get to success. Also, this is really important to say, when you're facing a crisis, you're going to want to say, am I reacting to the symptom or am I going to fix the real problem? Let's quit putting Band-Aids on things. Sometimes people think, oh, I'm not making any sales, so let me just cut my prices. There's no data that told you to cut the prices. So we don't want to just jump right to a symptom that we think. We want to solve the root problem. What I want you to do is, as problems are coming up, make a list and say, what is the main problem to this? We have a cash flow problem. Then we're going to say, is this an expense problem? Is this a sales problem? Are employees not producing? Like, what's the root cause of the problem? And that's what we're going to focus on. We're not going to keep mopping up the water. Now we're going to walk through some tactical things that you can do when you really want to just regain control. First thing I'm going to tell you is, when something happens, we're not going to make any decisions within the first 24 hours, unless, I'm assuming you're not working in an emergency room. We're working in a business, we're doing professional services, we're working on the job, whatever it is that you're doing, we're going to step back. That way, we're going to take this time so we're not overreacting. We're not going based off feelings instead of facts, that we're going to just sit in what happened in that first 24 hours. And that's really going to help you gain that perspective of what's really happening here. Then we're going to look at the data and say, is this true? What I think happened true? Is this really a bad thing? Is this a good thing? What's the data telling us? What are our sales telling us? What are our expenses telling us? Whatever the problem is, go back to the real data underneath that and figure out, is this temporary? Is this long-term? Is this something that needs my attention? And then we're just going to focus on what we can control. Let's say your issue is clients are leaving. We can't control that that's already happened, but we can control going forward. We can control the deliverable we're providing, the service we're providing. So those are the things we want to focus on. We don't want to focus on the things that don't matter. And during all of this, I also really want to encourage you to get other perspective, whether that's from a mentor, a coach, or colleagues. Get their perspective on what's happening, because sometimes we're so in the middle of chaos that we can't see through the woods, and we're blinded by that. Whereas others around us, or others who know us well or know our business, they can give us a different perspective than what we have ourselves. So in this episode, I hope that you really just see that every business owner goes through things that are hard, and you're going to continue to go through hard things. That's the thing with upleveling. You're getting to a new level that you haven't been before, and you're going to have to start making decisions you haven't made before. But I hope that I've given you some tools today to really help you work through those, and just to recognize growth is not linear. We're going to have problems. But the key here is we're going to take responsibility and we're going to react with facts. We're going to learn from this so that we are a better business owner, and we're just one step closer to success. Thanks for tuning in to Upleveling. If you found value in today's episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. It helps more entrepreneurs like you discover the show. Let's keep the conversation going. Connect with us on social media or visit aligncpa.com for resources and updates. Until next time, keep leading, optimizing, and upleveling.